frost and find tropical plants. When this happens, everything changes. Now, for us in North America, it's going to get warmer. We'll be farther away from the North Pole than we are now, which I guess, given the alternative, is probably a good thing for those of us who are alive and are not underwater, obviously. Being a warmer climate, I'll take that any day over a colder climate. It's a lot easier to survive in a warmer climate than a colder climate for obvious reasons that don't need to be stated. The 200-mile-an-hour winds would be for a better part of a day. That would knock down almost any structure above grade. The earthquakes will be massive. As I mentioned earlier in this show, the U.S. Navy says the weight of the water on the New Madrid seismic zone will trigger at least 3 9-point plus earthquakes on a New Madrid seismic zone. All that energy going north, south, and east, and not very well west. And we know that from the hundreds of earthquakes during the winter of 1811, 1812. We hear about the 3 that rang church bells in Philadelphia. We don't hear about the hundreds of other earthquakes that took place on the New Madrid seismic zone the winter of 1811, 1812. And we also know now that there was a pretty good-sized comet passing Earth at that time, which may have been the trigger, may not have been, doesn't matter.
Okay, let me bring in something here that this reminded me of. This might be something you're not aware of. There is a bizarre phenomenon that happens, and this is mainstream science. It's just not well known. It's not fringe science, but during a solar eclipse, there is a cessation of gravity, and this is known as the Allais effect, A-L-L-A-I-S effect, and it was observed and repeated multiple times by scientists who were doing pendulum experiments. You know how you have a large pendulum swinging and you can see the rotation of the Earth in the pendulum. Well, during a solar eclipse, the precession of the pendulum swing reversed. You might want to look into this because this seems to be, you mentioned, the sun taking 3 more hours to set. I was looking at this a couple of months ago, and I found that it was repeated by multiple pendulum labs and scientists around the world, and no one could explain it, so they just kind of forgot about it.
Well, I can see the first thing that comes to mind is navigation systems dependent on magnetic compasses comes to mind. Whether that would damage buildings or harm people, I'm not quite sure how that could take place. But it would definitely, even the most modern aircraft still have magnetic compasses in them as a backup. Yeah. So it would definitely play havoc with that. It's an interesting phenomenon, Mike, but I'm not sure, given the massive earthquakes and the 200-mile-an-hour winds and rocks hitting the planet, I'm not sure how great a role that would play in something that would cause harm to people.
No, it's just, I think I bring it up because to say that there are mysterious forces that mainstream science often doesn't talk about, or that the average person isn't aware of at all. Dynamics between heavenly bodies, our planet, the sun, perhaps Planet X, other things that are just far outside mainstream awareness. And I think about this. The bomb in Beirut, right? They were sitting, according to the official story, there was a pile of ammonium nitrate there, 2,500 tons of ammonium nitrate sitting there, and no one was aware of it. But it was ready to detonate with one spark, and it did. But aren't there other things like that in our universe that are ready to happen, to be sparked, catastrophic things that people just have zero awareness of, like a Krakatoa ready to blow?
Okay, well, I'll talk about volcanoes a little bit. I was communicating with one of my listeners the other day. She lives in Oregon, and she moved there from California from San Diego, thinking that was a safe place. And I wrote in my email the following: you do know that the Cascade Mountains aren't mountains, do you? That they're not mountains, they're dormant, soon to be coming back to life volcanoes?
That's right, they are.
So they are. In fact, I was writing, my daughter lives in a far suburb of Seattle, and my son-in-law was taking me to the airport about a year ago, and I pointed him out to Mount Hood, and I said, "Young man, that thing starts smoking. You better get out of here."
No kidding.
But
I mean, Mount St. Helens was just the beginning.
Exactly. And I flew by Mount St. Helens when it was smoking. It was quite the thing to see. Um, so yeah, Mike, when civilization